Today's video is about a supplementary form known as the Declaration Concerning a Lost, Stolen, Inaccessible, Damaged or Found Canadian Travel Document. A Canadian passport is declared lost when it is out of the possession of the holder and is not with a visa issuing office for another country, such as like a high commission or an embassy of another country where you are required to submit your passport for visa issuance purposes. In these instances, it's actually seen as an inaccessible passport because it is securely with an embassy or a high commission for a particular purpose, which is for visa purposes, but it is declared as lost when it's out of your possession. If it fell out of your pocket, your bag, it's not within your possession, you don't know where it is. A passport is seen as stolen when, of course, if it's taken from your person, if it's been pickpocketed from you, or if your house or wherever the passport is has been burgled or ransacked and it's been taken from you. The passport is deemed damaged whenever any sort of damage occurs to the passport, so this can include liquid damage like spills, water spills, or if it's been in your backpack and rain occurs and it leaks through the backpack and gets wet. It can also include intentional and unintentional damage as well, so if it's been written on, scribbled on, ripped up, cut up, or even if your dog's managed to eat in it, believe it or not. So that's a damaged passport, and it can be interpreted in many ways, and just see if there's any intention or if there's any malicious intent regarding the damage, or if it's just simple bad luck where something such as water has leaked in a water bottle where your passport was also stored inside of a backpack, for example. So that in that sense it will be a damaged passport. And a found document, of course, if at a later time that the passport has been recovered, either if it was lost or stolen. But obviously it's been out of your possession, you don't know where its whereabouts were, but you eventually find it, then you could also fill in this declaration with regards to the found passport. So section 1 of the application is personal information as indicated on most recent Canadian travel document. So if you have the Canadian passport, the original one, in the instance of a damaged passport, then of course you'll have that in front of you so you can fill it in as per the passport. I always highly recommend that you keep photocopies at least of your passports in such events, so you can refer back to them and can provide information as it appears in your passport verbatim. But if not, you can just provide it from the top of your head. That should be how the information should be laid out on this form. So first of all, the first section is the Canadian travel document, i.e. the passport, was issued in my name. So if it was issued in your name, then that's fine, or if your child's name. So if child being of course under 16 years old, the application that would have been used in their instance for the passport that has been that is now being declared would have been completed, for example, by the applicant parent. You can refer to the child application passport video as well for further information, but it depends. So either you just tick one of these boxes for whether it's the passport that's for yourself or is for a child. Next up, simple information about yourself. So the surname, remember we want to do this as per the passport that we're declaring either lost, stolen, inaccessible, damaged or found. So please give as much accurate information as possible in terms of your surname, your given name, your date of birth, your place of birth, the city, and then the country of birth. Again, it has a drop down list which is handy for you as well. And if you live in a country where there is a province, territory or state, you can also put that. This is an applicable section. And the document number, so this means basically the passport number, which is on the top right hand corner of the bio page, the bio page being page number 3 in your Canadian passport. That's the one with your photo and your name and your details on it. So that's the document number, top right hand corner, and it starts with an alphabet and letter, and then ends with numbers as well. Date of issue, so again you also find this on the bio page as well. The date of issue, and then place of issue again is found on the bio page. If you do know it, it will be listed as well. So it'll be the city and if need be the country as well. If it was just in Canada, for example, it will just list a city, for example Hamilton or Ottawa. It may not always list the country, but if it was maybe issued in London, there'll be London GBR or United Kingdom, if you can use the drop down list as well. Then you round off this section by signature of applicant. So you just sign your normal signature as it appears in your passport, of course. You'll be dating it on the date that you are completing this declaration, and sign that. So sign that simply where you are when you sign this document. So you just put the city and the country where you are when signing. And then finally at the bottom here, to round off section 1 of the form, is the Canadian travel document being submitted with your declaration? No. So if it's no, it's going to be in instances where the passport has been lost, stolen, inaccessible. And if it is a yes, then it will be most likely in a situation where the passport is either damaged or has been subsequently found. So section 2 of the declaration, as we rounded out section 1, there was a little hint here for you right at the end to just show you what sections you'd be filling in pertaining to your situation. So of course, if the passport is no longer in your possession, you will be completing section 2. So in instances of lost, stolen or inaccessible passports, this would be for you. If it's a damaged passport, it has been subsequently found, and you clicked yes, you will just be skipping section 2 and then moving on straight to section 3, which will be next. But in instances where the passport has been lost, stolen or is inaccessible, you are completing section 2. So the Canadian travel document listed in section 1 is no longer in my possession because, and then you provide a detailed explanation as to why you are not submitting the Canadian travel document and what has happened to it. This really is a section that you need to just give as much detail as possible as to what happened or what you think happened, if it was an instance or where you're not completely sure when you might have been pickpocketed, for example, or if it was stolen. Maybe there was a big gap between you storing your passport away in a drawer or something, and then when you went to get it when you needed it, it was no longer there. So there might be a gap in between, and you're not exactly sure when it happened, but just to the best of your ability to write as much detailed information, because of course this form is going to be scrutinized heavily. So you want to give as much information. You want to paint a picture for someone that knows nothing about your situation, so they can understand what happened to the passport clearly and succinctly. Next up, you put, I have made the following efforts to recover this Canadian travel document. Please explain. So for example, you can say, if it was just simply lost in my house, then you want to explain that I basically turned my house upside down and looked in every conceivable place that I could think the Canadian passport will be at. So for example, a safe, a particular cupboard where I keep all of my important documentation like birth certificates and passports and visas, for example, stand-alone visas. So you want to say that you made the intelligent decision to go to the places where there might be the last place you thought you might have put it, all these things. So it's not like you've just declared it straight away. You have made attempts to locate the document. If it was stolen, for example, then you would say I went to the police and reported it, or I reported it to the establishment where I was. So maybe if you were on the subway or underground, you would have reported it to the authorities, the management there, as well as authorities. So it's a tandem process. Whoever can, maybe it might have been located later on, it might have been discarded, for example. So it's good to inform those people if it was within an establishment. So for example, even if it was in a club or a bar or a pub as well, you want to inform the owners of that establishment as well. That would be a good idea to do, just in case to recover it. Next up, date this Canadian travel document was lost, stolen, or became inaccessible. So stolen or inaccessible, you might have a specific date. Inaccessible for sure, because you have lodged the passport with a high commission or embassy on a specific date, so that's fairly straightforward. If it was lost or stolen and you became aware of it instantaneously or almost instantaneously, then of course you'll have a date. But if you have a faint recollection, then just put the date that you at least will have last used it, and that might be the best case scenario as well, so you can put that down. Next up, this Canadian travel document was last used on. So again, the last time you used it for a particular purpose, most likely travel as well, because that's when it would be logged into systems around the world by the airlines. So if you do know when you last used the Canadian passport, please put that down as accurate to when you think you used it. And when that was last used, so the location where, like for example, if you're coming back to your home base, whatever country where you normally reside at the moment, so you could say if you were just coming back from Canada to London, UK, for example, you'd say London, UK is where you last used it, because you would have entered the country where you reside So that's what the location means. Next up, was a police report filed? So in instances of a lost, stolen passport, you would report the incident to the police. Certain police forces may not necessarily give you a report number on lost passports. Some of their policies are that they don't really investigate lost passports, unfortunately, just because of the high frequency of reports they get, and obviously they might be limited in their resources. But for sure, when a passport is stolen, there's going to be a lot more. There's a lot more of a criminal activity has occurred. So of course, there would be right for them to provide a report number. I highly suggest reporting it for sure if it's been stolen. And of course, you would fill in the salient information regarding a report if it's been created. So the date of the report was made, the report number if it's given to you by the police, and the name of the police service. So just the station, for example, or if it's just the police force, that would work as well. And if the report was not filed, you can explain your reasoning for not filing the report as well. So you don't always have to report it. For example, if it was lost and you are just following guidance as well, you may have just come straight to the Canadian High Commission or the Canadian Embassy in the location where you are and declared it lost or stolen to that embassy first of all. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very wise move to make anyway. You'd have to come to the High Commission or Embassy eventually, so you can just say you came straight to the Embassy or High Commission. And also in instances of an inaccessible passport, again, where the passport, you know where it is, you know if it's with a particular embassy or high commission, it's there for a particular reason, for example visa issuance, then that can be a salient point to make in this section as well. And then rounding out section 2, were any other provincial or federal identification documents lost or stolen? If it's yes, I would, even though it doesn't ask, it's really important to just list it here in the blank space, yes, and then you can state, for example, driving licenses, health cards, for example, or if it's no, then it's clearly no, and it was just the passport that was lost or stolen. So we're now at section 3, which is information concerning a damaged or found Canadian travel document. If we just skip back to section 1, remember we were asked a question at the end of section 1 where it says, is the Canadian travel document being submitted with your declaration? If it's no, you complete section 2. If you are submitting the passport, then you would have skipped section 2 and then you now arrive at section 3. Okay, so this is where you make the declaration or information about a damaged or found Canadian travel document. Again, it's really important to provide as much information in these fields because you're painting a picture for someone that knows nothing about you or the situation, and they just need to understand exactly what happened and what you did to potentially avoid the situation or to try and recover it or try your best to mitigate the circumstances as well. So really give as much information, and do indeed take note of this note. If insufficient space, attach a separate signed and dated sheet. You're welcome to give as much information as possible. More information, the better. So the first part of section 3 is a detailed circumstance of how the Canadian travel document was damaged or found. Again, this is where you're going to provide as much information. So for example, if your passport was in a backpack along with a bottle of water or a drink, and maybe the bottle wasn't screwed tightly enough, or maybe it was punctured, it then perhaps maybe have leaked and gotten onto the passport and potentially soaked some of the pages, or it could have even affected the chip which is embedded in the new e-passports. Another instance could be if you're just out and about in the outside and torrential downpour occurs and your backpack or bag isn't waterproof enough, and again it could have got soaked as well. So it's not malicious intent in any state on your part, but it's one of these things that has unfortunately occurred. For example, if the passport was found, you can just say, oh, I was moving house and I obviously cleared my entire house or my room, and I just stumbled upon the passport that I initially had reported lost, and it has now been found, and this is how I came across it really. And then explain why you're applying for a replacement Canadian travel document. So you can just simply say really in this section, well, I need to apply for it because I'm traveling or I need to apply for a visa, whatever reason it is that you need the passport, but it's because maybe it was damaged or it was subsequently found, but because I reported it earlier as lost or stolen, I can no longer use this document. Therefore, I'm doing the correct thing, which is applying for a replacement Canadian passport. Then you round out section 3 with date Canadian travel document was damaged or found. Again, if you're aware of the situation as to when the damage occurred, if it was almost instantaneous when you're emptying your backpack, for example, and you're like, oh my goodness, the passport is damaged, then you'll know what date it occurred. If it happened later on, sometimes individual's house may have gotten flooded, or certain leaks may have occurred, and you might not have stumbled across the passport immediately until you needed it, for example. Then you can just say when you actually discovered it was damaged. That would help as well. And of course, the date when you found the passport, you would know. You make note of that as well. And then this will be the location, so as pertaining to when the damage or the discovery occurred, where you were, so what city and country you were in. So now we are at the final section of the form for you to complete, which is number 4, declaration of applicant. With this section, you simply just put your surname, your given name, a daytime telephone number, and your date of birth. And you'll end this section with reading this declaration very clearly, and then signing and dating and listing the location of where you are when signing this declaration. So the declaration: I solemnly declare that, to my knowledge, the statements made in this declaration are true. Should I ever regain possession of the Canadian travel document report in section 1, I will return it immediately to the passport program, or if abroad, to the nearest Government of Canada office. I acknowledge that a Canadian travel document once reported lost, stolen, inaccessible, damaged or found is no longer valid and is not to be used for any travel. I understand multiple occurrences of lost, stolen or damaged Canadian travel documents may result in either the refusal to issue a replacement Canadian travel document, or if approved, a severely limited validity of the replacement Canadian travel document. I also acknowledge that additional requirements may apply, such as demonstrating the need to be issued a Canadian travel document. I declare that I have read and understood the warning to applicant at top of page 1. So once you've read that and understood it, you'll sign, you'll date, and then write the location of the city and country we are when signing this declaration. Once you've done that, that's your part done. You no longer have to fill in this section, as it clearly states for office use only. So you will be submitting this supplementary document with applications for either an adult general application, or if it's for a child passport, be the child general application. You do not submit this document if you are applying for the simplified renewal application method, if you are deemed to qualify for it, and of course for the simplified renewal you will not be able to apply for it through that method if your passport is damaged, lost or stolen. Thanks again for tuning into this video about the declaration concerning a lost, stolen, inaccessible, damaged or found Canadian travel document. I hope this was really helpful to you, or clarified some sections which may have confused you or raised some questions. Please for sure like this video, share it, or comment with anything that still may be a bit more, may have a query about, or you would like some further expansion on. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible in your comments. Or if you have any additional forms you would like me to record any subsequent videos on, please comment below, or maybe you can share it with someone that might find this handy. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.